While fighting rages on in Gaza and the West Bank, fears of a wider war between Israel and the Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon have eased somewhat after both sides pulled back following an exchange of rocket fire last Sunday. But tensions remain high, especially among residents caught in the crossfire. In this first of two stories centered on communities living on either side of the border, Sarah Coates meets northern Israelis who are staying put despite the grave danger.
The border between Israel and Lebanon is right now considered to be one of the most hostile places in the world. Tens of thousands of Israeli civilians have been evacuated from their homes in the border region, forced to flee from rocket and drone attacks from Hezbollah, which began more than 10 months ago in support of Hamas's war against Israel in Gaza. Ayelet and Avishai Lev and their 4 children live in the kibbutz of Gonen, near the border with Lebanon. Their village falls just outside the 5-kilometre evacuation zone set by the Israeli government, but they've been affected by rocket fire as well. When the missile attacks started, they took their kids and fled to Mr. Lev's sister's place further south.
After almost 2 months, I came here to bring clothes. I wanted to bring other clothes to where we were.
Before the winter?
Before the winter, and I said, when I came here, I said, I don't live here, I don't care. Whatever will happen, I'm staying here. You can do whatever you want with the children, I don't leave the house. And they came back.
The couple are adamant that despite the extreme danger, they will never again abandon their home. But they say they see the effect of that decision on their children.
They are so afraid that they don't sleep at night. They are all the time like something is going to happen. We need to be ready. We need to be ready.
Residents in these areas have been instructed by the Israel Defense Forces to stay very close to shelters and to limit gatherings. With Hezbollah saying its early morning attack on August 25th is only the initial phase of its retaliation for the assassination of top military commander Fuad Shakur in South Beirut at the end of July. Israel and the wider region are also anticipating a promised strike by Iran after the head of Hamas's political bureau, Ismail Haniyeh, was assassinated in Tehran. Fears of an all-out war between Israel and Iran have prompted the US and its allies to deploy additional warships and military hardware to the region and hastened efforts by international mediators to broker peace in Gaza.
Gidi, it's so close.
Many people I've spoken to in northern Israel, such as Gidi Harari, are furious about the security situation and feel abandoned by their government. Mr. Harari is a volunteer civilian defender. He says the Israeli leaders have not done enough to protect northerners.
And we feel forgotten because we don't see anyone coming and asking us what do we feel, what do we want. Now, no one from the government, no one from the important ministries. People are alone here.
For many, the fear is that if a ceasefire in Gaza doesn't come soon, the situation in this part of the Middle East will spiral out of control, putting the region into a wider war with devastating consequences. Sarah Coates, CNA, Shia Yishuv, North Israel.
Across the border in Lebanon, more than 800 people have been killed by Israeli strikes since last October. And that's when Hezbollah started an offensive against Israel because of his assault on Gaza, following Hamas's deadly attacks on Israeli towns. Most of the dead are Hezbollah fighters, but about 100 are civilians and non-combatants.
In the early hours of August 25th, people living on Lebanon's southern border woke up to this. Airstrikes from Israel, much more intense than usual. It ended up being its heaviest exchange of fire with Lebanese militant group Hezbollah in more than 10 months of tit-for-tat assaults. The following morning, an uneasy calm. Citizens along the border grappled with fear over how the conflict would play out. More than 100,000 people have fled their homes in southern Lebanon since hostilities erupted. The El-Juki family is among 150,000 who have remained within the conflict zone, saying they want to stay close to their farms and vineyards.
يعني هذا رزقنا كله حوالينا مش قادرين نروح له مش قادرين قاعدين مثل ما بيقول المثل بس خرج المقاول وقهر وفزع.
Lebanon is already buckling under years of political, financial, and economic crisis, resulting in the loss of jobs and poor provision of basic services. The protracted conflict between Hezbollah and Israel has only added to the strain. Residents of Lebanon's capital are concerned about the potential of a full-scale war. Beirut has seen a handful of Israeli airstrikes in the latest hostilities.
So let's hope for the best. يعني إن شاء الله ما يكون في حرب ونرجع اقتصادنا يمشي وبلدنا تمشي. ما حدا بيتمنى الحرب بس إنه إذا وقعت الحرب ما في مهرب يعني.
But others appear less anxious.
يصير شيء صدقني بلد خلص رأيت لحديت هون وانتهى ما حيصير شيء.
Some Lebanese have criticized Hezbollah for initiating attacks on Israel last October in support of Hamas' war with Israel in Gaza. But the Iran-backed militant group still enjoys broad support, particularly in Beirut's southern suburbs, where it has political and security operations.
وهيدي المقاومة بلبنان عمرها ما خيبتنا وهي السند ونحن بنوعد إسرائيل إنه إذا بتقرب على الضاحية كمان حنرجع نرد.
But for Lebanese tired of living with uncertainty, the hope is that there will be a ceasefire in Gaza so that normal life can resume once more, a sentiment that is particularly strong along the country's beleaguered southern border.